Watch this. Your topspin loops have zero spin, and these four reasons, especially the one about your fingers, explain exactly why. Why can't you generate spin on your topspin loops? It really comes down to four specific reasons. First, your timing is off, you're reaching out too far in front and pushing forward instead of brushing. Second, you start your stroke too early, so by the time you actually contact the ball, the friction window has already passed. Third, you're not using your fingers to rotate the racket face, so the turnover is too slow. Friction requires what I call short explosive force, a quick snap, not a long sustained motion. You snap and then you stop. After the snap, your wrist and forearm lock together and carry the momentum forward through your body and arm, adding the collision, the push through the ball. Watch friction first, then collision. Link those two together smoothly, and that's your power loop. That's the entire sequence. This is exactly why I keep telling you to use your fingers. You might think, what can my fingers possibly do? My arm is so much bigger, so much stronger. But players who ignore their fingers will always lose out on spin, always. When my opponent serves a half-long no-spin ball, I just add pressure with my fingers and cut underneath. It comes back loaded. When they give me a short ball to the forehand, one quick finger-driven push and it's spinning. It all comes from the fingers. The frequency and force your racket transmits to the ball, that's conducted through your fingers. Your body only kicks in when you're generating full power. Think about it. On a push or a flick, how much does your body really contribute? You can't rotate your waist or drive your hip on those shots. So for any stroke that involves friction, you must elevate the role of your fingers. Treat finger control as a key training priority. If other players can't do this and you can, you become the spin specialist among your peers. Now let's talk about the path of the stroke. After your fingers create the friction, what happens next? Here's the difference between a spin loop and a power loop. For the power loop, after your fingers brush the ball, your wrist and forearm lock and you drive forward, you push through. For the spin loop, after the finger friction, it's the forearm that adds force upward. Watch, many players try to generate heavy spin by lifting the shoulder and raising the elbow in a big frame. That big frame can produce power, but it cannot produce strong spin. It feels a lot like lifting a heavy bucket or pulling anything straight up. That yanking sensation. It's the same motion I teach for the sidespin topspin serve. Watch, it's this pulling, lifting force. When you loop with heavy spin, it's the same thing. See how the forearm works here, like you're hoisting something heavy. Feel the forearm lift. Remember, when you loop for maximum spin, the stroke isn't way up above your head. The motion is actually very compact, roughly 2/3 the size of a normal loop. Any version where the upper arm floats upward with no real engagement is hollow. It produces neither force nor spin. So don't overthink the size of the swing. After your fingers create the initial friction, the forearm pulls sharply upward, exactly like that sidespin topspin serve where you yank upward. After the finger friction, the forearm pulls upward, that's the spin loop. Notice I said at the beginning, the spin loop does not require you to push the upper and lower arm forward into the ball. Instead, you let the ball come close to your body, brush it with your fingers, and then the forearm yanks upward. That one sharp upward pull is where the spin comes from. The power loop is different. There, your arm extends and drives forward to meet the ball out in front, pushing and brushing through it. These are two distinct stroke paths, with very different timing and direction. Now, the spin loop works best when your opponent gives you a ball that's already loaded with spin or speed. You borrow that incoming energy and redirect it. If the ball coming at you is slow and has no spin, just adding your own spin won't produce much. It'll float over easy to defend. You need that incoming force to work with. The feeling of the spin loop is like the forearm rotating from low to high in one quick circle. They always loop to the same two diagonal angles, and when they can't finish the point, they blame their own power. But here's what I want you to understand. Even if you can't overpower your opponent, can you vary your placement? Loop to one spot, then another, then another. You can absolutely loop cross-court, nobody's stopping you, but shift the landing point slightly each time. Wherever your opponent is standing, don't loop right at them. The reason your loops get blocked easily is that your placement is too predictable, and your opponent is camped in one spot. So when your spin loop keeps getting returned, the first thing you should think about is changing the landing point, not adding more power. Engrave this in your mind, placement first. Second is rhythm, mix a heavy spin loop with a faster drive, alternate slow and quick. Third is speed. Power comes last, only when nothing else works. Too many of us loop a couple of balls, get frustrated when they come back, and start swinging wildly. That's when errors pile up. Always think placement first. If one spot keeps getting returned, move the next ball to the middle. Next, try varying your rhythm. Add a little more spin on one ball, then speed the next one up slightly. See how the opponent reacts. Only when nothing else works do you commit to full power. Too many players get blocked twice and immediately start muscling the ball. But here's the problem. The ball is light. If your body tenses up and you're swinging wild, even a tiny wobble produces errors. So take this away and drill it. Placement first, rhythm second, speed third, power last.
对，小臂加速往上拽啊，往上蹬的感觉要跟它产生合力，好不好？有没有收获？讲得真好，谢谢大家。有没有收获？问问大家。